The story unfolds in a secret drug factory owned by the notorious mafia boss, Zhu Dan, who is one of the city's biggest gangsters in Tahiti. Inside the factory, Zhu Dan and his gang members are gathered, and they have a man named Barno held captive, subjecting him to torture. Zhu Dan's aim is to draw Barno's close friend, Zo, to the location because he seeks revenge for the death of his younger brother. Zhu Dan has also ordered his henchmen to bomb Zo's house, resulting in the tragic loss of Zo's wife and child. Despite enduring continuous torture by the gangsters, Barno insists that they don't need to make an effort to find Zo, because he believes that Zo will come into their trap. Not long after, Zo arrives at the location, determined to rescue his best friend and avenge his family's tragic demise. In the world of assassins and Chinese gangsters, Zo is known as Bandy Jazz because he always dresses sharply when carrying out his missions. Zo doesn't discriminate between male and female opponents. As long as they are his enemies, he is determined to eliminate them. Zhu Dan's shots narrowly miss Zo, and he already anticipated that Zo would come to this place to rescue his friend. Zhu Dan intends to make sure that Zo doesn't leave alive. However, Zo and Barno are not scared by Zhu Dan's threats. Even though they are surrounded, they are confident in their combat skills and plan to eliminate everyone one by one. However, Zhu Dan manages to escape from the place and encounters a man named Ruin Hao. Ruin Hao was initially hired by Zhu Dan to help take down Zo, but he didn't show up when Zo arrived at the location. Zhu Dan is furious because he had paid Ruin Hao a lot of money to eliminate Zo, and in the end he mocked him for having a paralyzed right leg. Hearing this, Ruin Hao suddenly speeds up his motorcycle and crashes into Zhu Dan. Ruin Hao then reveals that both he and his younger brother were foolish, especially his younger brother who had tried to kill Zo. Ruin Hao then took the advantage of the situation and was the one who killed Zhu Dan. Zo, who survived the bombing incident, discovers that it was actually Ruin Hao who bombed his wife and child at their home, allowing Ruin Hao to manipulate the situation and kill them both. Ruin Hao attempted to kill the exhausted and injured Zo, who had endured a brutal fight and a bomb explosion. Fortunately, Ruin Hao's gun ran out of bullets. However, Zo was apprehended by the police, led by Captain Suze, who had received a call from someone and made Zo the main suspect. Zo was sentenced to 9 years in prison because the evidence had vanished from the scene and he was the only one found there. In prison, Zo became a target for gangsters who tried to take his life, but no matter how many of them tried, they could never defeat him. 9 years passed, and Zo's sentence finally came to an end, and Zo still held a grudge against Ruin Hao to avenge his family. A month later, in one corner of Tahiti City, Barno, who had survived the explosion at Zhu Dan's factory, was campaigning to become the city's mayor. As he addressed his supporters, Ruin Hao prepared to snipe him from a rooftop using a long-range rifle. However, a blinding light distracted him, causing Ruin Hao to fail in his attempt to shoot, and his position was detected by the security personnel guarding Barno. On the other hand, a clown was also present at the scene, watching Barno. That night, as the clown walked through the streets of Tahiti City, someone followed him from behind. It turned out that the clown was Zo, who had changed his identity and was now called Li Fei. His goal was to avoid being found by people from his past and seek revenge. However, Barno realized that the person in the clown costume was Zo himself. Zo then asked about the person trying to kill him, but Barno said that neither the police nor his associates had been able to find that person yet. Barno then asked Zo to join him and return to the way they used to be when they started a business together. He also learned that Zo wore the clown costume to search for the murderer of his family. However, Zo declined the offer, feeling that their worlds had become too different. Zo also asked Barno not to meet him again, as Barno's current status as a public official could tarnish his reputation. Back at his home, Zo stumbled upon a news broadcast on TV featuring an interview with Captain Suze. As he watched the interview, Zo noticed Captain Suze and his daughter Su-Lin. It was clear that Zo had a close relationship with her. Using his clown disguise, Zo often met with Su-Lin after school to entertain her. They were so close that Su Ling even asked him to represent her family at school events when her father couldn't attend due to his out-of-town duties. As Su Ling was about to head to her aunt's car waiting to pick her up, a motorcycle suddenly sped towards her. Zhou managed to prevent a collision and checked the motorcycle right to Ruin Hao's wrist, hoping to find the person responsible for his family's death. However, it turned out not to be the person he was looking for. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Gu Song and Ruin Hao's henchmen were interrogating someone about the whereabouts of a flash drive containing evidence of their crimes. The exposure of this evidence would create chaos. Unable to withstand the torture, the person revealed that the flash drive was hidden inside a teddy bear. Upon hearing this, Ruin Hao ordered his henchmen to locate the flash drive within a day. Back at Su Ling's school, she was waiting for Zhou, who had not yet arrived to be her guardian. At the same time, Gu Song and his henchmen were at a house searching for the teddy bear with the flash drive but couldn't find it. They interrogated a woman tied to a chair, who turned out to be Su Ling's aunt, and she disclosed that Su Ling had taken the teddy bear to her school. After killing Su Ling's aunt, Gu Song and his henchmen rushed to Su Ling's school following the GPS on her aunt's tablet. On the other hand, Su Ling, still waiting for Zhou to arrive as her guardian, was mocked by her classmates. Suddenly, Zhou appeared in his clown costume as her guardian. Together, they showcased their ball-throwing skills. Not long after, a man claiming to be a police officer sent by Su Ling's father tried to pick her up, explaining that her father was in trouble. However, Zhou noticed the number tattoo on the man's wrist, matching the tattoo of the person he was seeking. Suspicion led Zhou to attack the man, and his colleagues, disguised as police officers, also tried to assault Zhou. However, Zhou easily subdued them and took Su Ling away from her school in a waiting taxi. Some of Gu Song's henchmen attempted to stop them, but Zhou was no ordinary man, and they couldn't defeat him easily. Gu Song was determined to capture his target and initiated a high-speed chase. During the pursuit, Gu Song's car flipped over, prompting him to instruct his henchmen to find Su Ling and the clown. They both arrived in Chinatown and continued their escape on foot. Soon after, Gu Song's henchmen reached the area in search of them. Zhou managed to apprehend one of the men and interrogated him to learn about the significance of the wrist tattoo and their motive for chasing Su Ling. The man revealed that the tattoo represented their organization, and they were after an item Su Ling possessed. The police also arrived at the scene, with Officer Nun Nun attempting to apprehend Zhou. Despite her martial arts skills, she couldn't overpower him. Back at the police office, they reviewed the footage, showing Zhou easily defeating Nan. Lei Shai reported to his superior that Nan was their most skilled officer, and yet she had been defeated. He suspected that the clown planning a revenge against Captain Suze, who was currently away on duty, and took advantage of his absence to abduct his daughter. More challenges arose as undercover police officers arrived at Su Ling's school to investigate the incident due to its potential impact on the upcoming mayoral election. The police chief then instructed his team to gather clues diligently. Meanwhile, at his home, Zhou was removing photos and information from his target board. News of the kidnapping was broadcast on television and caught Barno's attention. Li Hua, who was present, expressed concern that their connection could affect the election results. On the other hand, Su Ling believed that the clown had kidnapped her, but Zhou explained that the people outside, including the police and those in Chinatown, were part of the same group. He advised her not to easily trust others' words and to rely on her own judgment. Zhou revealed that he had been searching for someone with a matching tattoo to the people pursuing him. For now, Su Ling had to trust him because he was her only hope for rescue, and she possessed an item highly sought after by these people, which could help him. They attempted to locate the item, but soon realized that Su Ling's wristwatch had an active GPS tracker. As expected, Gu Song and his henchmen were closing in on Zhou's house. Zhou then asked Su Ling to have a meal and watch TV in his secret room. Meanwhile, Zhou, who had suspected that someone was approaching, waited in the corridor of the apartment building. Not long after, a confrontation and shootout erupted. Gu Song was excited to find his target alive and relished the challenge. He urged Zhou to use all his skills in the fight, and he managed to defeat Gu Song. Zhou then interrogated him to learn the whereabouts of their boss, and Gu Song revealed that their boss was known simply as R. Outside Zhou apartment building, Nun Nun, Lei Shai, and other police officers were on their way to his house. They had traced clues from CCTV footage at Su Ling's school to this area. Upon reaching Zhou's residence, they found one of Gu Song's henchmen bound inside, but no sign of Zhou and Su Ling. The two had arrived at a place that used to be Zhou's secret headquarters, left unused for a long time. On the other hand, Gu Song managed to escape from Zhou and reported to Ruin Hao that their target had defeated them all. Ruin Hao was unsatisfied with these excuses, as he believed Gu Song had failed in his assigned task. That night, before going to sleep, Su Ling asked why Zhou was protecting her. He then explained that he once had a daughter who would be about her age now. Upon hearing this, Su Ling suspected that the criminals had harmed his daughter, motivating him to seek justice. Su Ling then offered her teddy bear as a comfort to Zhou. This triggered his memory of Gu Song's mention of a flash drive hidden inside the teddy bear, concealed within its eye. At the police station, Nun Nun and Lei Shai continued their investigation into Zhou, but their efforts yielded no leads. Suddenly, Captain Suze appeared before them, having just completed his duties with Interpol. Suze then shared his background as the world's greatest secret agent, renowned for mastering combat techniques and military combat skills. He had undergone brutal secret training abroad. As 9 years ago, Suze had captured Zhou inside Zhudan's drug factory. Back then, Zhou had been severely injured. It turned out that the people captured at Zhou's house were actually members of the Ruin Hao's gang, sporting the same wrist tattoo. Ruin Hao had previously worked under Zhudan, but took over his operations after Zhudan's death. However, Ruin Hao's current whereabouts remained shrouded in mystery. Hearing Suze's account, the police chief urged them to solve the case before the mayoral election. On the other hand, after reviewing all the evidence, Zhou planned to commence his search for the mastermind behind his family's murder. Before embarking on this mission, he left Su Ling at the Ferris wheel amusement park, where rides occurred every 15 minutes, ensuring her safety. Zhou initiated his investigation into Ruin Hao's various businesses, gradually exposing Ruin Hao's illegal operations, inciting his anger. Although Zhou had left Su Ling at the Ferris wheel, he saw a news broadcast just as he was about to leave. The police chief and Captain Suze appealed to kidnapper to cease their actions and surrender to the police. Captain Suze also called for the release of his daughter and expressed his willingness to meet in person to address any demands. Back at the police station, they pondered why both sides were after Su Ling. Furthermore, Ruin Hao's members had invaded Captain Suze's home and killed Su Ling's caregiver. Captain Suze suspected that they targeted his daughter because her teddy bear held evidence of Ruin Hao criminal activities. Suze revealed that he had a spy within Ruin Hao organization who had gathered evidence, but unfortunately, the spy had been exposed during his recent absence. Nun Nun then questioned why Captain Suze hadn't handed over the evidence to the police chief. Captain Suze clarified that the evidence wasn't sufficient to implicate Ruin Hao, given the complex web of connections Ruin Hao had, and he didn't want to raise unnecessary suspicions. Shortly after the call, Captain Suze received a message from his daughter, informing him that she was now at the amusement park and in the care of the clown. She assured her father that everything was fine. Rushing to the park, Suze arrived but couldn't find his daughter, who had already left. His phone then rang, and it was Zhou calling. Suze suspected that Zhou had taken his daughter to confront Ruin Hao. Zhou then agreed to provide information about Ruin Hao and arranged a meeting at the abandoned pier. At the pier, Zhou and Captain Suze discussed their connections to Ruin Hao and why Captain Suze had kept evidence of his crimes hidden. Captain Suze disclosed that Ruin Hao was hailed from the Golden Triangle mercenary group. Capturing him had been a long-standing goal, but the individuals behind Ruin Hao were enigmatic. Captain Suze had been gathering evidence, waiting for the right opportunity. His sources had tipped him off about a drug transaction worth tens of millions of dollars with a foreign organization scheduled for 1 a.m., and Captain Suze urged Zhou not to confront Ruin Hao alone. Shortly after, Zoe arrived at the designated location but fell victim to false information, leading to his capture by Ruin Hao. Inside the location, Zoe skillfully eliminated Ruin Hao's henchmen, leaving only Ruin Hao himself. Ruin Hao then attempted to shoot Zoe, but Zoe emerged victorious. Captain Suze intervened, advocating for legal intervention. Zoe then expressed his desire to put his past behind and asked Captain Suze to pick up Sulin at a provided address. Not long after, Captain Suze met Sulin at the amusement park, where he shared that the police had launched a comprehensive investigation into Ruin Hao's criminal group, obtaining arrest warrants. Suze promised to find a solution to the problem. As Zoe remained at the park, he sensed someone watching him and followed the person to the park's restroom, where he encountered Ruin Hao unexpectedly. Ruin Hao blamed Suze for nearly costing him his life and threatened to expose all the evidence on the flash drive. Ruin Hao had initially planned to kill Suze, but he realized that the police officer might still be of some use to him. Suddenly, dozens of Ruin Hao's henchmen barged into the restroom with the intent to eliminate Zoe. Meanwhile, Suze was in the parking basement with Nun Nun, who had grown suspicious of their secret meeting with Zoe and the exchange of Sulin and the flash drive. Nun Nun questioned where the flash drive should be taken, recalling overhearing conversations at the police station about her captain meeting someone after delivering the flash drive. Suze explained that he had a bomb inside him, which could detonate if he didn't comply with their orders. Suddenly, a car pulled up and took Suze and Sulin away. At the same time, Ruin Hao revealed to Zoe how he had found his house in the past. Someone had provided the address because they were uncomfortable with Zoe's presence. They were involved in more significant criminal activities, like arms dealing, drug trafficking, and prostitution, while Zoe had consistently obstructed their plans by adhering to legal means and family values. The bomb was just the first step in their plan to remove obstacles, and they had called the police to have him imprisoned. Their task would be easier if they succeeded in making one of their own the mayor, and it turns out the person behind all this was Zoe's close friend Barno. At Barno's headquarters, Suze was tied up and subjected to torture by Barno. He remarked on Suze's fortune for having adopted such a lovely and kind daughter. Shortly after, Joe contacted Barno, who had anticipated that Zoe would contact him and was waiting at the same location as 9 years ago. Barno also instructed Zoe to bring an extra flash drive, suspecting that he might copy the evidence. Before leaving the place, Barno then instructed Liwa to activate the bomb inside Suze's body. Now, Zoe stood at his wife's grave, reflecting on their daughter, who was now 9 years old. During his time in prison, he marked the wall each year, estimating how tall their daughter would have grown. It turns out that their daughter had survived the bombing, and Zoe had placed her in an orphanage to keep her safe. After his release from prison, his initial plan had been to quietly watch her grow up by her side. However, fate had once again put their daughter in danger. He apologized for breaking his promise to leave behind his past and the suit, as he now needed to wear it again to save their child. Not long after, Zoe finally arrived at the factory, where he had been arrested 9 years ago. Inside, hundreds of Barno's henchmen were waiting for him. After defeating all of them, Zoe finally met Barno and handed over the flash drive. Barno suspected that Sulin might actually be Zoe's surviving child from the bombing incident. When he saw a birthmark on her body, Barno assumed that Zoe was still weakened by family ties, just like 9 years ago. Not long after, a fight broke out between them, with both Zoe and Barno being equally strong and aware of each other's weaknesses. While Zoe tried to disarm the bomb on his hand and learn Sulin's whereabouts, Barno suddenly stabbed him from behind and activated the bomb. However, Barno was killed by his own bomb. Shortly after, Zoe and Sulin escaped from the place. Sulin cried and asked if she could have a father again. Zoe then assured her that she would be fine as long as he was there. Suddenly, a bullet hit his body, causing Zoe to feel pain. Sulin then saw a photo of a young child being carried by Zoe and realized that the child was herself. She remembered clearly that Xiaoqi was her biological father. At the same time, the SWAT team entered and took Sulin away from the place, after they had incapacitated Zoe and found him lifeless. Before the movie ended, a news report revealed that Bandy Jazz, their longtime target, had been assisting the police in eradicating the criminal group led by a public official running for Mayor Barno. It was also disclosed that Suze, the star of the police force, had been involved with the gangsters. Moral lesson from the story: never trust a clown with your secrets, especially if they're seeking revenge for their family. They might just juggle their way into your heart and solve your problems with balloon animals.